Alright, welcome back to the third video. Well, I'm glad you're still here. That means you're persistent and you want to keep on learning the STM32. So let's get started. Now, in this video, we'll be looking into two things. The first one is we'll be creating a new project with the STM32 Cube IDE. And in the second part of this video, we will be taking a deeper dive into all the files which make up your STM32 project. That is obviously your .c and .h files, but there are other files which are also generated by the compiler when you hit the build or the compile button. So let's get started. But before we actually do that, let us answer the quiz question from the previous video, which went like this. So say for example, if you're working on a 32-bit system or a 64-bit system, let's say it's a 32-bit system. What exactly is 32 bits? Let's have a look. So I have a quick presentation over here where you have a processor and a memory. Can be any processor and can be any memory, and it can be also an on-chip memory or it can be an off-chip memory as well. Now generally there are three types of buses, which are the address bus, the data bus, and the control bus. Now what exactly is a bus? Bus is just a collection of wires. Now these wires can be, well, copper wires or any sorts of material which they use inside the chip. So for example, USB, which is the universal serial bus, comprises of two wires, data plus and data minus, and two more wires for power and ground. So bus is just a collection of wires. So here you have the address bus and the data bus along with the control bus. So let's just leave the control bus out of this discussion right now. So we'll be only focusing on address bus. The address bus has to pinpoint a particular address in the memory location. And what exactly is a memory? It's a huge one-dimensional array with a certain address and the content at a particular memory location. So say for example, you have a 1-bit bus, which means there is only one, for example, one copper wire going from the processor and the memory. And the processor can only do two things with the copper wire: either pull it up high, 5 volts, 3.3 volts, whatever, which is binary logic high, 1, or pull it low, which is 0, binary logic 0. That brings us to this. So we have location on the left and then the content on the right. So if it's a binary location 0, you can either store probably 1 bit or 1 byte. That depends on how wide the data thing is in the memory. That totally depends on the manufacturer and how they have decided to construct the architecture of the processor. But for example, if it's 0, then you are addressing memory location 0 and then storing either 0 or 1, because binary pitch, digital computers, that's how it rolls. That's how it is. Or memory location 1, and then you either store a 0 or 1 at that particular memory location. That means we have 2 to the power 1, that equals 2 memory locations. Now, let's say for example, the size of the address bus is 2 bits, and the data bus is the same, 1 bit. That brings us to these 4 memory locations, because now you have 2 wires going from the processor to the memory in the address bus. So you can do all sorts of 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 4 possible memory locations. And if we take things one level higher, we have the 3-bit address bus. That gives us in total 2 to the power 3, 8 locations. Now, we are dealing with STM32F303RE, and as it says in the name, STM32, so which means our address bus is 32-bit wide. Now the data bus is, well, can be 1 byte or 1 bit or whatever, however they have arranged it inside the microcontroller architecture. So if it's a 32-bit system, chances are, or mostly, it is the size of the address bus. Well, now you know. Now, let's start our STM32 Cube IDE and let's make a new project. Alright, so we have started the STM32 Cube IDE, and this is your homepage of your information center of the IDE. Now, let's go and file new and create a new STM32 project. Okay, so we have a dialog box where it asks us to select the processor and or the microcontroller which we are working with, and it can be only the microcontroller. Say for example, if you have designed a custom board with an STM32 on it, or we can actually select an existing board. It can be the discovery boards or the nucleo boards. So we do have the discovery board with us, the nucleo board with us, which is the F303RE1. So I'm just going to select this one, and then you have more details about it over here. And then make sure to select this option over here and then click on next. And then it asks us to give it project name. I'm just going to write in KD_test. Now this is at the location of my workspace. It's just a folder in the C column, in the C drive. Targeted languages is C, and the rest of the things can be left as it is at the moment. Then I'm going to click on next. Now there's this SDK package or a firmware package which ST releases, and these are libraries which we can use. So right now I'm using the v1.11.2. Depending on when you have installed this IDE and when you're watching this video, these versions may differ. And for the code generator options, let's set it to copy only the necessary library files and click on finish. And then it asks initialize all the peripherals of the microcontroller with the default mode. You say yes please. Okay, so here we have our device configuration tool window. So I'm just going to extend this and zoom in a little bit. Now as you can see, this is a nice graphical layout of your STM32 microcontroller, which is on board of your nucleo board, and a lot of pins have already been configured for us because that's how the nucleo board has been designed. The RCC pins on the left are the crystal and or the resonator pins. Then you have a B1 push button, some programming pins over here, and then you have UART, which is already configured for you, and there is LD2, which is a green LED, which has already been configured. We will be actually taking a deeper dive into this whole configurator tool later, but right now it has been already configured for us. So for example, if I want to configure a particular pin, I can just click on the pin and select whatever the possible options it can do. It can do a GPIO input, output, it can also be a UART, RX pin, and the other possible configurations. There's also the clock configuration, which is the next video. So we'll be taking a deeper dive into how to configure all the peripheral clocks and the processor clocks in this window. Now, let's close this and take a deeper dive into the project explorer. So the code has been already generated, and if you see, there is the includes tab where you have already included all these libraries, and you can change this by going into the project properties. As easy as that. So right now they have already included all these project libraries for us. So what is important is the next one, which is the core folder. Now there are 3 subfolders inside the core folder. Let's take a dive into the source folder, which is the SRC. There you have the main.c file, which looks like this. And in the include folder, there is an equivalent main.h files. So these are actually your .c and .h files where you will be writing all the code for your application. So you have your int main function over here. There is a system clock configuration function. There is a UART initialization function. There is a GPIO function. So I'm just minimizing them to see the code in a better way. And then there's an error handler function. All these functions are called in the main. So you see, you initialize all the peripherals, then you configure the clock, then you have GPIO initialization, UART initialization, and then you do nothing in your while one. So your processor just keeps on executing this empty code over here. So that is just the main.c file and the source and the inc folder. So the next up is the startup folder where you have a .s file. So what exactly does this .s file do? Well, it sets the initial SP. SP is the stack pointer, and then you have the PC, which is the program counter, and then it configures all the vector table entries and configures the clock of the system, etc., etc. And as you can scroll down, all this is assembly. So this is more or less an assembly file. And then you have a drivers file where you have two subfolders. First one being the CMSys, which stands for Cortex Microcontroller Software Interface Standard. And then you have the HAL driver. So we'll be using the HAL driver, and the HAL stands for Hardware Abstraction Layer. Here you have all the source files and the header files for all the peripherals. So let's say there is a UART peripheral, let's say there are timers, let's say there is a clock peripheral, let's say there are all the things you can do with the power module on board. All these are your HAL driver files. And then you have the configurator file, which we previously had opened, which allows you to, well, configure everything without manually coding. So this is designed to make a programmer's life easier. And then next up, we have a .ld file, which is a linker script. What does a linker script do? Well, it sets the heap size, the stack size, and the stack location according to the application requirement. And as you can see, if you scroll down, you can adjust the heap size over here and the stack size over here. So this is totally depending on how big your code is and what your application is and where you intend to use it. Depending on that, you can change your heap size and stack size, which is, well, actually a part of the huge one-dimensional memory which we talked about. So far, that's it for your project folder. Now I have a hammer icon over here and I have selected the debug configuration. So I'm just going to click on the build icon, and that means we are building all the .c and .h files. And here we go, build finished, 0 errors and 0 warnings. Now let's go back to the project explorer on the left. Now there is this binary drop down thing which has been generated, and then you have a .elf file. Now elf stands for executable and linkable format. You can actually, well, open this and we can, well, this is not English or alphabets. Well, some of them are. So this is an executable and linkable format, and you have special tools which are just software tools where you can actually analyze an ELF file. And that an ELF file typically defines the structure of all the binaries, the libraries, and the core files of your program. The ELF files are typically the output of a compiler or a linker and are in the binary format. That is why you cannot read them. So I'm just going to close the ELF file. Next up, you can see includes core and drivers. We already had those, but it generated a debug folder. So your compiler generated all these files, and let's take a look into all these generated files. So you have the same core and the drivers folder in here, but how are they different? So as you can see, the source and the startup are the same, but if I can actually open it, wait a minute. So we don't have the .c files anymore, but we have the .o files, the .d files, and the .su files. So what are these? So .o files are the object files. Again, these are not readable. And then you have main.d. D stands for, well, probably dependency files. So your main.c or .h files depends on all these files, because you have included the header files or you have some functions in your main files. So you need all these files to be included. So .d is prerequisites or a dependency file. Next, moving on, we have the .su file, which is the stack usage. How much memory does a particular function or a variable consume in the stack? Let's say the system clock config consumes 160 bytes. So you can actually analyze and see how efficient the routine you have written is. Okay, that would be all for the source folder, and you have the same in the startup folder, and then you have the same in the drivers folder, where every .c and .h file has an .o, .d and .su file. And then you have the same L file over here, and then you have a .bin file, which is the binary file. This is actually the file which gets flashed on to your microcontroller. And then you have a .list file. Let's see if you can read this. Oh yes, we can read this. Well, this is an assembly listing file of the generated code. So say for example, you have the UITinit function. I can actually check my disassembly or the assembly equivalent of the C code. So this is which you can find in the .list file. Next up is a .map file, which looks like this. So this is more or less your memory map. Now I'll be putting in all the links of more information about all these types of files in the description. They might be also appearing in the eye icon on your top right, where you can actually go and read more about what every type of file does. And it's quite handy. These files actually come in handy when you are stuck and when your code gets complex and you have to particular zero in a certain error when things don't go your way. So these files are actually useful when it comes to that. So this was the .map file. Next up, we have the make file. A make file lists all the rules as to how you actually want to compile and build your project and what the dependencies are, and all the rules are conveniently written over here. And then we have the same for some other objects.list, which is another .list file. And then you also have another .mk file, which are also make files, but they are called by the main make file. So that's about it. These are all the different types of files which you can find in a typical STM32 Cube IDE project. Now, if you look back when you coded an Arduino, all this was totally abstracted from you and life was actually made easier. Well, it helps kids and newbies to get into microcontroller programming. So not blaming Arduino. Arduino did quite a nice job to abstract all this to get more and more people into the embedded world. But that's how STM32 project files look like. So that's about it for this video. In the next one, we will be going into the configurator tool and we will be configuring the clocks properly. Also, we can configure more pinouts and see how the generated code differs. That's about it. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.